Today, we're really getting into the nuts and bolts of our buildings, specifically commercial or corporate real estate.
Yeah, how they're actually run day to day.
Exactly. And how that whole process is changing really quite dramatically. I think most people can picture, the maintenance person walking around with a clipboard.
Oh, absolutely. That image is, well, it's the classic starting point for a lot of buildings,
Yeah.
even today, but things are definitely shifting.
And that shift is what we want to dig into. We've got a couple of sources guiding us.
We do. We're looking at materials from Cohesion, specifically something called this Smart Building Journey and a related blog post. Our mission, really, is to chart this evolution.
Okay. So from those like paper-based systems everyone kind of knows.
Right, towards something much more intelligent, predictive, and we want to explore what that actually means for, how efficiently buildings run and, crucially, the experience for people inside them.
Right. So let's start right there with that clipboard image. That's stage one.
That's exactly stage one. Clipboards everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the foundation for, honestly, a lot of commercial or corporate real estate. Think paper logs for everything, visitors, equipment checks, maintenance schedules, all handwritten.
Super manual.
Totally. And it relies heavily on checklists, paper trails, and maybe most importantly, it relies on what our sources call tribal knowledge.
Yeah. The person who's been there 20 years and just knows how that quirky old chiller works because they've fixed it a dozen times.
Precisely. That engineer's expertise is golden, but it's often not written down anywhere formal. It's in their head.
Which feels a bit precarious, right?
It is. I mean, these systems work, sort of, but they're prone to human error. Tracking things manually is inefficient, and the big risk is when that experienced person leaves or retires.
All that knowledge just walks out the door.
Exactly. Operational continuity becomes really fragile. What do you do about the 20-year-old chiller when the one person who understands its secrets is gone?
It's a huge vulnerability. Okay, so that's the starting line. Where do buildings typically go from there? What's the next phase in modernizing commercial or corporate real estate?
Stage two is what we're calling disconnected pieces. This is where you see the first real steps towards modernization. Paper starts to fade out a bit.
Okay, so digital tools start appearing.
Right. Things like computerized maintenance management systems, CMMS, they come into log work orders digitally. You get digital access control, maybe standalone apps for tenants or occupants.
Tenants or occupant apps, right, for booking a room or maybe reporting an issue.
Exactly, things like that. So it feels like progress. And the market reflects that one source mentioned a WorkTrek report predicting the CMMS market could grow from, $1.6 billion to over $4 billion by 2033.
Wow, okay, so lots of adoption happening there. But you called it disconnected pieces. Why?
Because that's the key problem here. These new digital tools, they often don't talk to each other. They operate in silos.
Ah, okay. So the CMSO knows about a repair schedule, but it has no idea what the building's energy system is doing.
Precisely. Or the tenant or occupant app might log a complaint about being too cold, but that information doesn't automatically link up with the HVAC monitoring system.
So the operations team still has to manually connect the dots between these different systems.
Yes. The sources say the team basically acts as the connective tissue. They're bridging the gaps between these separate digital islands. Technology is there, yes, but it's not integrated. Its full potential isn't being tapped.
And you're saying this is where a lot of commercial or corporate real estate is right now?
Seems to be the case. It's described as a critical inflection point. Investments are being made in tech, but maybe not always strategically towards integration. Sounds like a lot of digital tools, but maybe not a truly digital system.
Right. Lots of effort, but maybe not the full payoff yet. Okay, so how do we get past these disconnected pieces? What's stage three?
Stage three is the palm of your hand. This is where real digital transformation starts taking root. The big shift is towards integrated platforms.
Integration, so things start talking to each other.
Yes. And critically, this information becomes accessible. Think mobile apps, centralized dashboards. Operations teams get real-time data and smoother workflows right on their phones or tablets.
Okay, the single pane of glass idea. One place to see and manage everything.
Exactly. And this really changes the experience. For occupants in commercial or corporate real estate, maybe they use that tenant or occupant app to easily book a conference room or log a service request. It's seamless.
And for the building engineers?
They get instant alerts on their phone if a system goes out of spec. No more waiting for a manual check or for someone to report it.
That sounds like a fundamental shift, moving from just reacting to problems.
You're being much more responsive. Proactively responsive, even. Our sources really stress this idea of empowerment.
How so?
Well, these tools give people the information they need to make faster, better decisions, whether it's security, HVAC adjustments, dealing with a tenant or occupant request. It's all quicker and more informed.
So technology becomes less of a burden and more of an enabler for the teams managing commercial or corporate real estate.
Right. The cohesion document talks about automation increasing, tenant or occupant engagement improving through that app,
Yep.
and just generally streamlining how things get done. Tech becomes central.
I guess there's a mindset change needed too, though.
Absolutely. The blog post points this out. It's a cultural shift. Teams need to start trusting the data the systems provide. And, digital literacy across the board becomes way more important.
Okay, so integrated systems, mobile access, a shift towards being responsive. That feels like a big leap. What's left? What's stage 4?
Stage 4 is responsive and predictive. This is where the building gets, well, truly intelligent. We're talking advanced data analytics, AI, machine learning entering the picture.
Okay, predictive. So the building starts anticipating things.
Exactly. It moves beyond just reacting even quickly to actually predicting potential issues before they happen. Think predictive maintenance.
Right. Instead of changing filters every 6 months just because.
The system analyzes data airflow, pressure, energy use, and tells you, hey, this specific filter is likely to become inefficient soon. You should plan to replace it. It's monitoring the actual condition in real time.
That makes so much more sense. And it's not just filters, I assume.
No, no. Across the board, sensors feeding data on temperature, vibration, energy patterns. AI can spot tiny anomalies that signal an upcoming failure in all sorts of equipment.
And it can adjust things automatically, too.
Yes, optimizing performance automatically. So preventive maintenance kind of evolves into this smarter predictive model. And energy management becomes dynamic, constantly adjusting to conditions and occupancy.
The blog post mentioned super engineers. What's that about?
Yeah. It's about empowering the operations teams in commercial or corporate real estate. With all this data and predictive insight, they're not just firefighters reacting to problems anymore.
They're using the data proactively.
Right. To find potential issues early, optimize how resources are used, make the tenant or occupant experience better. The example given was predicting when a filter needs changing, but also forecasting the energy savings if you change it, say, a week early. That's the level of detail we're talking about.
That's impressive. But, with all this AI and automation, the question always comes up, what about the people? Does this mean fewer jobs for operations teams in commercial or corporate real estate?
It's a really important question, and both sources tackle it head on. The clear message is, no, smart buildings aren't meant to replace people. They're meant to amplify human expertise.
Amplify. Okay.
Yeah. Remember that tribal knowledge we talked about? The deep, intuitive understanding that experienced staff have about their specific building.
Yeah, the hard-earned wisdom.
Exactly. These modern systems are designed to capture that wisdom, make it more systematic, and scale it. So instead of being locked in one person's head.
It gets embedded in the system, accessible to the whole team.
Precisely. The shift to digital doesn't make human insight less valuable. It actually makes it more powerful because it can be shared and acted upon more effectively across the commercial or corporate real estate operations. It augments their capabilities.
That's a crucial distinction. Augmentation, not replacement. So, pulling this all together, why is this whole evolution happening now? Why is it so important for commercial or corporate real estate today?
It seems to be a convergence of factors. You've got rising expectations from tenants or occupants. They want comfort, seamless service, healthy spaces. That's one big driver.
Okay, expectations are higher.
Then there's the constant pressure on owners and operators to cut costs, be more efficient. These buildings are huge assets to run.
Always a factor.
And third, you have sustainability mandates, environmental concerns, regulations. They're getting stricter and more important. Being green isn't just nice anymore.
Right. So meeting expectations, controlling costs, and sustainability. It sounds like digitally mature operations aren't just an advantage anymore.
They're becoming a necessity, a need to have, not just a nice to have, for commercial or corporate real estate to stay competitive, meet those demands, and frankly, operate responsibly.
So these investments in smart tech are really investments in the asset's future.
Exactly. As the blog puts it, it's about the future performance of our assets. Reactive, inefficient ways of operating just won't cut it long-term in commercial or corporate real estate.
So looking forward then, what's the final picture?
Well, the clipboard's reign is definitely ending. We're seeing connected systems, mobile-first ways of working, AI-driven intelligence becoming the norm.
It's a path towards more efficiency.
Definitely efficiency, but also the promise is smarter, more sustainable buildings, and importantly, more human buildings, in a way.
Oh, so?
Because the conclusion from the sources is pretty clear. The smartest buildings aren't just the ones stuffed with the latest tech. They're the ones where technology and the skilled people using it work together really well. That synergy is key.
Fascinating stuff. A real journey. Okay, so just to quickly run through it again for everyone listening. We started with clipboards everywhere, manual, paper, tribal knowledge.
Then moved into disconnected pieces, early digital tools, but operating in silos, the sort of awkward adolescence for building tech.
Followed by stage 3, the palm of your hand, integrated platforms, mobile access via things like the tenant or occupant app, empowering teams to be responsive.
And finally, stage 4, responsive and predictive, using AI and data for true building intelligence, anticipating needs, optimizing performance.
And the big takeaway running through all of this is that technology in commercial or corporate real estate isn't about replacing people.
Not at all. It's about empowering them, giving them the data, the insights, the tools to manage these complex buildings better, more efficiently, more sustainably, and ultimately creating better environments for everyone.
Right. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about what this means for your experiences with buildings, whether you work in one, manage one, or just occupy one. What happens when buildings can genuinely anticipate needs and optimize themselves? What new possibilities open up? It feels like we're right on the cusp of seeing that future become reality.